this introduction to anthropology. And so what we're going to do is I'm just going to walk across the stage as if it's a 12,000 year walk. So I start over here as 12,000 years ago. As I walk across, by the time I get to that end, it's the present. Okay, so 12,000 years ago. The reason why I'm starting here is because 12,000 years ago, virtually everybody on the planet is living in basically the same way. They're all hunting and gathering their food. They're living in small groups, about 50 people, rarely more than that. But as I take my first step, this first step of 1,000 years, this first step already people are starting to plant crops. And this creates a huge change in human society. Suddenly people don't have to follow the herds, they don't have to be nomadic, they can start to settle in, they start to build towns. And as I move across these thousands of years, by the time I'm halfway across the stage, people have towns as big as 50,000. And as I take a few more steps here, something really interesting happens. Just after that midway point, somebody starts, or people start, taking the words that they're speaking and representing them in pictures, and eventually in symbols that become the alphabet. And that allows empires to grow. So we have Sumeria, Babylon, Greece, Rome. And I've just got this one step left. This one step is about 1,000 years on the step, because it was 12 steps across here. And if I look down at this, virtually everything that you take for granted is in this step. It's not in any of those other steps that came before. But more interesting than all the technological changes that we can talk about is the fact that right at the beginning of my foot, 11,700 years into the journey, still nothing that would you take for granted exists. The Industrial Revolution hasn't happened. The widespread of job possibilities hasn't happened. There's no suburbs. There's no Walmart. There's no electricity. There's no TV. There's no TV, car, planes, trains, and so on. But what's really interesting is that 11,700 years into this, there are three questions that almost nobody's asked. That by the time I put my foot down, everybody's asking them. And those are, the three questions are, who am I? What am I going to do? Am I going to make it? Because for 11,700 years, those questions were virtually answered for you. You were going to do what your parents did. You were going to act like your parents acted. There were no changes, no dramatic changes that you had to go through. But now we have to answer those questions. Our kids have to answer those questions. And more importantly, if you look down here, it's not just like, in this foot, there's not just planes, trains, automobiles, cars, suburbs, Walmarts, iPhones, and Androids. It's also World War I, World War II, the most devastating wars of our time, along with environmental crises, energy crises, and so on. And that means there's another set of questions, which is who are we, what are we going to do, are we going to make it? And those, to me, frame the questions of what this is all about. Can we help our students answer those three questions, both in the singular and in the plural? And when you look down at the end of that stage, there's something else that emerges, and it looks like this. And in the 12,000-year history of humanity, this stuff looks really significant. Because for the first time, almost half the planet, 3 billion people on the planet, are connecting and collaborating in ways they've never connected and collaborated before. For the first time